I guess to start, gentlemen, if you can tell me who you are, what you do, what your company does, get familiar a little bit.
So my name is Justin Bride. Is this on? There we go. So my name is Justin Bride. I own a company called Ascent Contracting. I've been in construction the majority of my life, at least my adult life, starting college. We are a custom home builder. We do custom homes and scrapes and builds here in Denver, so we're local to Denver, and do work along the Front Range. We do remodels and additions and pop-tops, so any of the development that you see in 1920s homes, that's us and other people, but that's us. My background prior to starting Ascent was in commercial construction, so I got a commercial construction management degree from college way back when. Worked for a commercial builder, and then later worked for a mechanical-based commercial builder doing energy-based retrofits. So I got really well versed in mechanical systems, anything MEP, and any sort of tech that was going on in the building world. And it seemed like prior to me knowing that, or getting in that world, it didn't seem like there was a lot of tech and innovation in the building world. So it was incredible to see that. And when I started Ascent, it was with the intention of being able to provide commercial level project management processes to residential homeowners, and then better building tech to residential homeowners who a lot of times don't really know, they don't know what they don't know. They don't even know what questions to ask. So.
My name is Chad Mercer. Been a Bitcoiner for too long. Made every mistake in the book. I'm an IT guy. 30 years in IT, and started working for TESSERE a few years ago. And one of the things that has made them a little bit crazy is me constantly pitching, hey, we should be doing this Bitcoin thing. Hey, we should be doing this Bitcoin thing. So I threw some single board miners in some cabinets in the office to heat the office for a while to get Bitcoin on the books. So, and then I walked to the executive team and said, hey, look, we got some Bitcoin on the books. What are you going to do about it now? So anyway, but little did I know, Matt was a Bitcoiner. So I didn't make him upset, so that was cool. So been heating my home with miners for a number of years now, and very excited about this. Came last year. And so then after meeting and talking with all of the folks that were here last year, I got more and more excited about, all right, we got to do this like at scale. Let's do commercial. And then Matt kept shooting me down with, here's all the reasons why we can't do that. So that's why we are here to start having these conversations with folks to figure out how we can scale from more of the residential, but also coming down from the stuff we just talked about, large-scale mines where you're talking about, let's do an entire city worth of mining. I want to play in that middle range where we can do some of that boosting of the situation from the low end and coming down from the high end. So that's me.
Good morning. My name is Matt Cortez. I'm CEO of TESSERE. I am a licensed architect. I've been with TESSERE for 23 years now. One of the things that TESSERE does is we serve the commercial markets. We don't do anything residential, but we have markets from aviation, healthcare, higher education, commercial, federal work, all the way to zoos. And we even do some restaurant hospitality work. So we're in several different markets. And where I cut my teeth at and learned a lot through development was working with developers and working with them on that end. If any of you have worked with them, they're always trying to look at that first cost. Are they in there for the long term? Are they looking to sell the product after they build it and get out? So understanding that knowledge has helped me be able to go to clients now and say, I know the options that are out there. What's your intention? What are your goals? And in working with Chad and talking about Bitcoin, and when he's thrown these things out, and oh, by the way, I had to deal with more than just accepting the fact that he threw miners in the closets. My board had a little issue with doing this on the side, so but I dealt with that in different ways. Nonetheless, I'm a Bitcoiner. I believe in it. I am I feel like an outsider compared to all you guys who are doing it and talking about it, but I see where the future is. I'm doing a central utility plant right now. I'm involved with a client that's just like the last panel talked about. I'm working with them on heating, upwards of 2.5 million square feet. And, I've thought through how could I offer to them some of the things that I'm seeing today. But the product's not there yet. There's no proof of concept yet. I can't put our reputation online to do that. So that's why I'm here.
Well, that was a great segue into my next question. But first, a little context. For those who don't know, I think architects and contractors have some of the hardest jobs in new building construction. I was formerly a structural engineer, and so for some context, architects are at the top. They deal with the owner and developer who might change their mind every day on what they want in the building. Oh, they will. Below that, the architect has to coordinate the mechanical team, electrical team, plumbing, structural, civil, put all this in one package, have it all coordinated most of the time, and they put their seal on it. So Matt is putting his reputation, and he has to be confident in everything that goes in that package. And then Justin has to read that and try to build it. He asks questions back and forth, but that's the general gist of how design processes go for new construction. So Matt, you just mentioned your reputation. Like, your reputation is on the line with any submittal package you do. You're liable for everything in that. You have this very difficult stamp to achieve. Hearing what you've heard, knowing what you know, what about the hash rate heating industry needs to mature and grow that you would feel comfortable to put your seal on that and send it off into a new building? Are we there yet? Sorry.
Are you there? Are we there yet? No, we're not even close. Unless I hear different things that I don't know yet. But it's when we look at systems, I look at lifespan of systems for a client, meaning that what's your first cost? How are you going to maintain it? Who will maintain it? How will you control it as the end user? Like, how are you setting the temps, setting the lights, setting the window shades? How are you doing that through the course of the building life? Who are you calling that's local, that isn't coming from 2 states away because they're the only tech within the region? And then when are you replacing that system you just put in? Are you putting enough capital away every year to make sure that replacement's going? And the system you put in, did you do low first cost and you didn't give a damn about the long-term cost and you're replacing it in 5 years? Or did you go to the ultimate Cadillac version and said, I'm not going to replace a system for 20 years, and I'm going to pump a bunch of money in? And so from our end, it's, on the miners. It's the jurisdiction, a lot of talk's been had about the jurisdictions that are there and what they're looking at. I'll tell you right now, inspectors in the construction industry, they're going away. They're retiring. There's a vacuum there. We all know it. They're not being replaced by knowledgeable individuals that understand anything. And now you're telling them they don't know anything about mechanical systems. Now you're telling them you're dropping in a miner now, and you're blowing their mind. They don't know what that means. And so how are they going to approve it? Who are they going to look towards? There's no resource for that. And then, so I think you've got a lot of things. You've got initial proof of concept. I've got to show this to a client. Who's maintaining it? We got to train our techs. Who is approving the concept when it's installed? And then, what the building management system is. You heard a lot of talk about that. It's not integrate, I understand how to control a miner from Chad, but that doesn't integrate into the building management system that controls the lights, the shades, the temperature. They don't integrate right now. If anyone has a great entrepreneurial idea, develop a building control system that has all of that in mind.
Well, and that was one of the, just to kind of piggyback onto that, one of the things we had a conversation about just recently was exactly the building management side, which is when you have a maintenance man in a building and we're doing some kind of a retrofit or something like that, and they're working on that system, you're going to come in with a new building management system that's got all this minor stuff, and you're going to tell this guy that's been maintaining this building for 20 years, oh, by the way, here's a completely new system. Or what was the one we just did where we came in with a different system for a different building on a single campus that it was a problem. So again, people talked about standardization, and from my limited experience dealing with these building management systems on the buildings I have to deal with, those things suck. So if anybody does have any sort of, like he's saying, entrepreneurial juice, that is absolutely a place that we should be looking. 256 Foundation, perfect kind of a situation. If you're talking about building management, that would be another great place to focus at scale. Obviously not for your house. That's Home Assistant.
Yeah, we'll
And
deal with
go
that
to
at
his
lunch.
workshop.
Yeah.
So everything we do is 100% client focused. Our vision is that we build with excellence for the good of our client, for the renewal of our industry, and for the renewal of our cities, and for the advancement of our industry. And that first part, for the good of our client, in my world, in the residential world, there can be a stigma associated with residential construction. And I'm sure everyone has their stories, either firsthand or secondhand, about contractors who screwed them over, or whatever the case is, or just didn't get involved, didn't get into the details to know what they were building and how they were actually going to do it well. We get so involved with our projects from an earlier and earlier stage. We commonly design build projects. And it's with the intention that people know that they can trust us from concept to completion, right from the start. So the headache, the challenge that I could see is if a good builder is an advocate for their client to this project, they're like a liaison to the project for their client. Making sure that client is trying to be as transparent as they can about the technology that is going into their house, I think is going to be pretty important for about all of our clients. And I love the idea that people are talking about, like, decentralized data centers. That's a great way to be able to shift the focus away from Bitcoin if people are not as Bitcoin friendly. But at the same time, I could see, like, with a lot of things that could be controversial, education is probably the best thing you can do towards clients. So everyone in here, in this room, has so much more Bitcoin knowledge and experience than I do. I'm absolutely the dumbest guy in the room when it comes to Bitcoin. My background with Bitcoin is that I have a brother who has been geeking out about this stuff for 15 years, and is part of the space. So when he told me about a year ago that people are trying to waste heat capture, Bitcoin miners, like Bitcoin miners are a thing, they're not going anywhere. So that people are trying to take Bitcoin miners and integrate them into building systems to be able to capture that waste heat. I mean, that's right in line with the stuff that I had previously been doing, and I love that. So being able to educate clients on that concept, for one, on Bitcoin itself, for two, is important to me. I think it's one of the challenges that'll have to come through.
I have other questions on my list, but you guys are so good at segueing into my other questions. I'll pivot a little bit. At Exergy, our early successes have been selling, I call them heating appliances, to other Bitcoiners, like other guys who get it. Maybe they're ideologically, like, motivated to just want to mine Bitcoin at home for whatever reason. Let's say we get through all the certifications, UL listings, training, et cetera. Do you think it's worthwhile to abstract away Bitcoin from the heating system? Like, in design, you don't say we're going wood over steel because of different efficiencies, maybe there's cost effective. Is it worth saying we're going with Carrier versus this Canaan Avalon miner in the system? Also, you get a rebate every day, every week. However you want to do that, is it worth abstracting away the Bitcoin and just saying, hey, but you run this, you get a rebate? Or is it worthwhile to make sure the client is fully informed of what's going in? Because oftentimes they don't know what's in their walls. But I don't know. You guys take it away on that.
Yeah, I think that is worth trying to pull the idea of Bitcoin away from the product itself and talk about you get paid to be able to be part of decentralized databasing, if that's a word. But I will point out that a lot of our clients, when a client is spending 6 figures or 7 figures on a project, they're normally pretty savvy people, humans in general. And they know questions to ask. And I don't know a lot of clients who are shelling out that type of money on an overall project, and then they'll hear about a new technology that's coming in and they don't want to know about it. If they do, that's amazing. So I still think that education is going to be a big part of it. But the idea that it's decentralized databasing and that you just don't worry about what's going on with the computing, that probably work with a lot of clients.
I disagree with a little bit of what he said. As an advocate, I believe in that in terms of, being a part of a client's journey through design and construction. It's their worst fear in the world. As an individual, I want to be authentic with the client. I want to tell them all the news, even if it's bad news up front, put it all out there. I would explain to them in a way, and I like the approach of talking about the heat, recovery or, release, and then talking about, oh, by the way, not just saying it's a rebate, but it is Bitcoin. Like, let's talk about it. Like, it's out there, and let's not shy away from it.
There's a reason I work for this guy.
But again, sometimes what I don't know, and I'm walking around with some of these clients who are in the tech, they may have a tech product, a tech system, high-tech building that they want to be built. They're Bitcoiners too. They're just not telling me. And if I were to say, hey, we've got there's a product out here, it's working, I've got some examples we can show you, they would probably be like, I'm a Bitcoiner, I love it, I'm jumping on board. Like, sometimes I think we shy away from saying what's truly there, and we may end up saying the same thing amongst our peers. Like, that's how I would approach it. So,
and that's why I love markets. We can each approach this differently and see what works best. I think one strategy works great for some demographics, and another strategy works great for others. But I agree with both of you.
And I don't disagree with Matt. That's what I was saying. I think that education towards Bitcoin is the best thing that can be happening. And if summits like these provide more information to the layperson, me included, that's a huge win.
Well, and I think a lot of it gets back to the part where I think you can do. I'm gonna play the middleman here. I do think that there is something about both, right? Because if you describe the Bitcoin as a rebate, some of the thing is getting in people's heads the construction of the way that the return is coming, because you've got the potential of the Bitcoin, you got the heat, right, which is why we're here. But then Nicholas, in his earlier presentation, where we're talking about the possibility of dealing with any kind of curtailment payments, et cetera, you've got multiple layers that we could be dealing with, and that's one of the reasons why, from a development perspective, residential is going to keep you limited unless you can get a whole lot of people involved. As soon as we can get a 5 megawatt project, we've been, he was just telling me about a district system just recently that we're currently working on, where we have 5 megawatts worth of just the control systems in the building. So the power draw that's there is incredible. So as soon as you do that and you bring that into a grid negotiation and you got 10 of those, that's a lot of power. So that curtailment payment could be significant, and we could scale this thing significantly more, provided we can get in that. I'm not talking about a 2 gigawatt kind of nonsense. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about that middle ground. And if we can get businesses all around a city, now you're talking about scale that allows us to get this thing accelerated to a point where we have negotiating terms with some of the big chip dispensers that don't require us using robots to pull them off of boards. Sorry, I get a little passionate.
No, that's good. We love passion. I want to segue a little bit. I know of one commercial project that has been designed with hash rate heaters at its core from day one. And because of local codes and such, the mechanical engineer had to also provide a system that could provide all the heat, even though they know that it's going to be turned off. So effectively, they have 2 heating systems. Each can provide 100% of the heat demand, but because hash rate heating is nowhere in any version of any building code anywhere, they have to provide this other system and say, oh, it's just high-powered compute. It's not doing anything. as far as I know, the city has been okay with that. But do you guys think that eventually sizing can pare down a little bit, where you don't have 100%, maybe it's 75, 50%, some sort of mix like that? And I guess an additional question is, do you think that it's worthwhile to come at this from a top-down approach, where the architecture firm or the developer is saying, hey, we want to design with Bitcoin in mind? Or do you think it's worthwhile for a mechanical engineer to try to push from bottom up to say, hey, I have this other system, it can provide the heating source, what do you guys think? And keep pushing that up each direction. So kind of a few questions there for you guys to run with.
So I'll say that from my perspective, at the commercial or residential level, that idea of being able to size down is going to be tough until there's UL listings on products, and that any sort of jurisdiction or governing agency can see that as a legitimate heat source. Until that happens, I think it would just be seen as a secondary heat source, or like, people cut in ERVs, energy recovery ventilators, on mechanical systems all the time. And I don't know if any mechanical inspectors or plan review departments even acknowledge that. It's actually become code required to have that, but they don't look into the details to see what it is. So until that UL listing happens, until it can be actually seen as a primary heat system to be able to offset or supplement the total load, like contribute to the total load, you probably still have to design to the total load with a conventional system, and then have a dual system helping them work.
I agree with everything that he was saying. There's different types of mechanical systems out there, all the way from, again, low-cost entry systems all the way up to the 4-pipe boiler chiller system that are enclosed. And, the inspectors, they're well-versed in just what they've always seen, and so that low first cost, when they know what they should be looking for, when you start getting into and adding miners potentially to a heat source and replacing the boiler, they would probably look at it and go, what is that? Have questions. I know I was talking to an individual from Idaho, and I don't know if he's in here, but he was saying he's doing the same thing with a car wash, and he was saying that the inspector was asking about a valve, and they don't need a valve because there's no fuel from that. It's not a boiler. And the inspector was like, okay, and then just stamped it and moved on because they didn't know what they were looking at. So again, it goes back to education. I completely agree. There has to be more approval because from the UL side to allow some of these products to become mainstream. And to answer your first or your second question about does it come from top down or bottom up, I think we've got to go both ways. That's the only way this is ever we're gonna shift this tide, because the ideas, when you're doing a retrofit, in our building that we work at in Wichita, when we do a retrofit, if we're going back and saying we want to change the mechanical system, I'm going to go to a mechanical subcontractor and not necessarily an engineer. Whereas someone who's wanting to build a brand new building, they're going to go talk to a contractor or an architect and say, hey, here's what I want to do, here's the things I want to include. And so I think it's both ways.
So Bitcoin miners are kind of this new heating appliance, if you will. No one really outside of this room knows how they work for a heating appliance. We've talked about education a bit. Do you think this involves a bunch of lunch and learns where different firms go to the design firms and teach everyone? Do you think this involves field testing of actually proving out these systems, some combination there? And how do you think we best approach education? And where do we start? Do we start with the designers? Do we just start with the developers? Like, if we're going top down and bottom up, like, where do you start?
I want to jump in on this one. So one of the things I've been fighting with this exact problem before, been trying to reach out to a number of different folks, talk to a number of folks across the industry, specifically Austin from ASIC Repair Parts out of Texas. He'd been working with a college, and I run the IT department at TESSERE, and so I've been using Wichita State Tech as my source for my staff, for my interns. And talking with that dean, the idea would be to introduce a Heatpunk, and this is kind of a it's a new thing. We're still talking about how we're going to do it. But the idea would be to have HVAC, electrical, and the IT side of things. So you've got the control board side from the software perspective. You've got the HVAC. You've also got the electrical. The idea would be that we would have a full program run in at Wichita State that would do exactly this kind of a conversation where you've got people that know all the things about Heatpunk specific things because of exactly what he's talking about. We need a training program that's going to give people the ability to do all of the different bits. I would like to be able to, and I think actually, Joseph, I think you were talking about this with your pull the board out, stick the new one back in, that kind of repair. How could you then scale that? We have to be able to get repaired boards quickly. How do we do that at a reasonable price, et cetera? We don't want to have to do some kind of crazy thing, but right now we're stuck with that. We're stuck with a bunch of system boards that we have to either build from the ground up or not. Right now, we either wait for all the open source stuff to go or we have to work with the existing system. So the idea would be to start doing training in colleges if we can to actually start graduating people into the HVAC industry. Okay, cool, now you go work for all these HVAC companies. That's awesome. Now, like Matt's talking about, we're finding out that there are people at these companies that we are serving. Oh yeah, I am a Bitcoiner. We were literally just meeting with an engineering firm the other day, had our single board set up, which you can see upstairs, it's pretty sick. But our single board set up sitting on a conference table to kind of demo to the engineers there. One of the electrical engineers walks in the room and he's like, oh nice, you got a miner. It instantly recognized the single board config. So the point is that these Bitcoiners are everywhere. They're just not necessarily in positions of power, but the more we can train those people across the industry, I think the better off we're going to be. And it needs to be all the way down at the technician level so that they can be that bottom-up source of knowledge and support for the rest of the industry.
Absolutely. How do we bring on the current HVAC technicians? Like, I love that idea for the next generation, but...
Let's do certificates.
Yeah.
So it's not a full program.
Yeah, because we've hired some, we'll call them younger technicians. They don't know what they're doing. You really want that 80-year-old plumber who's just been turning wrenches for years. He can do everything, not necessarily by the book, but it works, and it works well. So, like, that guy's retiring in droves, and the current wrench turners and technicians, I want to bring them up. And I don't know if you guys have any other ideas. Like, is it just approach them one at a time and say, here's this thing, we're doing this, or enroll in my certification program, and then you are enabled to go install this thing?
So I'll say that I think certifications are going to be absolutely critical, but even prior to that, even just like buy-in at the subcontractor level, at the owner level, at whatever level, I'd say that and education is the key to it all, and like it starts at the individual level. So what's great about the idea of hash rate heating and miners is that, like, to a lot of people who aren't in Bitcoin is just really theoretical and ethereal. It's a hard concept to wrap their mind around. But these miners, there's now something that's tangible that they can see, and they see that it creates this heat. They're able to recapture this heat, and then along with that, there's going to be some sort of control system, some sort of some panel they can look at to see what it's actually, how they're actually benefiting from it. So from a homeowner, the idea of like smart homes have gone through the roof. And so if you can all of a sudden promote a truly smart home where you get to see this panel that you see what your exterior envelope R values are, you see what sort of input heating you need for your house, and you see now the revenue that's coming in to be able to heat your house. All of that just plays into promoting education, and then everything's going to fall from there. So we're at Ascent, we're going to be implementing one of these systems on our hot water radiant heat boiler system, just so that we can start bringing our plumbers, our electricians, our mechanical guys, even though that's not mechanical, and then of course homeowners to come and see this is actually what we're doing. This is a trend, it's not going away, so we want to be able to offer this type of service and this type of product to you guys.
We can wait around and hope that education will get everyone to where they are, but I'll be dead by then. What we need to do is do that, but also, as he just stated, have proof of concept. I was just talking to Chad that we've got to look at, is there a way to, accelerate this and say, I've got an existing system with the client, hey, let's try to work this out, but the product has to be there. Like, it can't look like someone 3D printed a box and is dropping it in a commercial application. That facility director, that owner of that, business will not go for that because it doesn't look right. It has to be something that's got a form to it that looks very much like the other products that they've seen. Like, that's what we've got to get to, and it's got to be implemented. You've got to implement it so you can go and take the client, take an engineer, say, hey, this is what's going on now. We can do this and talk about the rebate and all that stuff. But once they see it, then they're going to ask more questions. How does this work? Show me this. So that's where we got to get to.
And I would say that for the people who are working on the actual products, I mean, the best thing you could be doing, in my opinion, to be able to scale this is to go to large manufacturers like Carrier, like Mitsubishi, like anyone making a water heater, whatever the case is, and push this tech on them. As soon as that's in, the UL listing will follow. Let the big boys do the work, and we just need to get the mining information, the mining products to them.
So we have a couple minutes left, and I think this is a fun one. You can split your hash rate on your miner really however you see fit. On some machines, depending on the firmware, you can split it at the machine level, or with like Datum and other instances, you can split it at the pool level. Incentives matter. And so if we get through all this red tape, you're installing hash rate heating everywhere, everyone wants it. How can you incentivize the installers to want to be on top of this? Is there a new division of the architectural firm that runs a pool and is maintaining and watching all these? Is that the mechanical guy? Is that the GC? Does everyone get a split? How do you guys view kind of splitting up where the rewards go to incentivize everyone to want to make sure this product is actively working?
I've been trying to make my IT department the first IT department that's a profit center. So I have too many ideas, but I'm looking at my IT guys, my support techs and whatnot. We're answering tickets like any other IT department, but why can't my guys also be repairing boards? Why can't my guys be building bit axes? Why can't my guys be doing same kind of thing? Hash rate split, architecture firm, rather than us taking a cut up front, we get paid our $2 million fee on a $100 million deal. Why don't we just take a cut of the hash rate heat, right? Why don't I take 1% of the Bitcoin you mine on your, 100 kilowatt setup, whatever, right? Same kind of deal with the maintainability side, like you're talking about. Incentivize the guy that has to manage that building. Whoever's having to manage the building, you get 1% of the Bitcoin generated from this. I mean, because of the fact you can do this at the network layer, you can start divvying that up into a lot of cool ways. Because especially even just what he mentioned, the fact you can do it at the miner and you can do it at the pool. There's no reason you couldn't have multiplicative splits. I mean, anyway, it can get really silly. But the point is that if you are then paying that guy that is the maintainer of that system to maintain the system, he's incentivized for that thing to be constantly hashing. Kent has talked about this with his SAS mining and the way that they do their profit sharing with the customer, right? It's exactly the same kind of thing. Incentivize them to make sure that the system never goes down. If the system goes down, that guy's not making money, right? So that hash rate split to me is one of the coolest ways that you can monetize hash rate heating in a commercial type of setup.
Perfect answer. We've just got about a minute left. I don't know if you guys have any last thoughts or kind of takeaways or questions or calls to action for helping push this into commercial setting and building codes and such. Or is it just education, 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 and then we also install sometime there?
Yeah, for me, I think education is the key, and it's all good news. The only thing education can do is going to remove bad stigmas associated with Bitcoin, and it's just going to raise the tide. So the more advocates you can get, the better.
I'm going to second a lot of the earlier topics where they were discussing standardization and open source. To me, that's where we win. decentralization of the system, decentralization of the hash rate. All of those things are exactly where Bitcoin needs to be, and anything we can do to work together as a team so that we can put forward the idea that Bitcoin is distributed and stays distributed, that's where I think it's most important.
I think we need to just make sure that we're always using our forward-thinking approach to looking at the system from the time of design or concept all the way through replacement of that system. And you can't just look at one segment of this, like getting it installed. Like that's not the goal line. The goal line's much further down, because once you get adoption all the way through, there's just going to be repeat business one after another after that.
Well, this is great. Can we have a round of applause for our panelists?